Okay, so now we're recording. And so I just wanted to start off basically talking today about some of the recent updates we've had from LSAC about the LSAT and a few other things. And then we'll dive into kind of how law schools are handling this current admission cycle and what you can be doing during this admission cycle to make sure you're hedging your bets and covering all your bases. So since most of LSAC's updates have to do with the LSAT, I think I'll go ahead and have Steve talk about those first if you are ready for that.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
All right. Okay, cool. Can you tell us a little bit about, what's going on with the April LSAT and, some of the changes that are happening right now?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And thanks so much for having me, Angie. It's great to be connected with everyone. Nice to see you here as well, Karen. I know we've been communicating for a bit, so it's nice to see you joining. So for those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I run the LSAT blog. I also host the LSAT Unplugged YouTube channel and podcast. Been teaching the LSAT for about 15 years now, and I have never seen so many changes in such a short time. It's really incredible. First, the LSAT went digital last year. There were some tech issues and glitches as they rolled it out, but it's getting progressively better. And LSAC has really, with the new leadership, they've done a lot to improve things over there, be more responsive to student needs and issues. And now this whole coronavirus thing hits. They had to cancel the March LSAT. They will almost certainly cancel the April LSAT. They have set the deadline for themselves of April 10th to make that decision. And despite all the lockdowns, state by state, things clearly getting worse, they are still waiting for that April 10th benchmark, apparently, to decide whether to go forward or not. And I kind of get it, because once they remove the April LSAT, they've already removed the March. June is now open to question whether that will be canceled. And law schools need these students to be able to take the LSAT. Law schools have got to fill their seats, and they are extending deadlines more and more to accommodate students because they've got to fill those seats. They want the best applicants possible. And so that's part of what's going on. I'm hopeful the June LSAT will go forward. We'll see what happens. If students have any concerns, definitely reach out to those law schools and ask them, because it is varying school by school. Each school kind of has their own situation as far as how they make their decisions, but they are getting more and more flexible as they really need to.
Yeah, so a few other things. So right now, if you were registered for the March LSAT, you're now registered for April. Is that correct?
Yeah, so if you're registered for the March LSAT, they already bumped you to April. If you're registered for April, they will probably bump you to June, kind of just going forward and forward from there. So anyone who has been planning on taking the LSAT this spring, I obviously would not count on it. If you're not sure which test date to go for, I would probably aim for July or August at the earliest, because Virginia, for example, has a lockdown until June 10th. The June LSAT is June 8th. So in Virginia, there's no way the LSAT could go forward. And I imagine that they're being cautious, but other states will follow suit. It seems that everyone kind of tends to set their expectations too low, and then they need to move the benchmarks further and further out. And so I would urge students to be overly cautious and plan farther ahead or farther out in this case.
And are they charging any change fees or anything for moving your LSATs right now?
No, given the circumstances, they're waiving all those fees. They're understanding of the situation, and it might take them a little bit of time to make those adjustments, to issue those refunds, but they will make right in the end. And obviously, someone who registered for April but can't do June for some reason, that person needs to get their refund, because June isn't going to work for them. Auto registering them for that date just isn't going to fly for that student. That's not what they signed up for, but they'll make right on that.
Yeah. And then I was also seeing that if you had canceled a March or April score, they're reviving that, right?
Yeah, so as a one-time thing, they are allowing students who were registered for the March and April LSATs to resurrect their scores so that they can still apply in the cycle ending now, just because those students needed a score on record. If they didn't have one, they get to see their canceled score and then decide whether to apply with that. And if you have multiple canceled scores, they will let you reveal the highest one.
Okay.
So that's pretty awesome for those students. That affects about 3,000 people, and all of those people have already been personally emailed with that option.
Yeah, I was about to say that's pretty different, right? Because normally you don't get to see your score when you cancel. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, the
Okay.
only time that's ever happened previously was with the July LSAT
Yeah. Okay.
as a unique olive branch for the digital LSAT transition. So desperate times call for desperate measures, and they've got to ultimately. It's funny. This really does reveal the extent to which LSAC serves law schools, not
Yeah.
students. They're aiming to help law schools fill their seats, and
Right.
so if making things better for students also happens to help law schools, then LSAC will certainly go ahead with that change. Their job, then the law school's job, is not to enforce these arbitrary deadlines.
Sure.
It's to fill their seats, and so the deadlines that applied under normal circumstances obviously have to be bent and broken in this case.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of them are just going out the window. I've seen some schools even extending their applications all the way to August. They're just like, we just need bodies. Please still come.
Or they may extend until
So,
September 1st or even a week or two into the semester. It's entirely
yeah.
possible.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about that little. I think, this cycle, we're just going to see just a very, very different admission cycle. I mean, normally schools will close most of their applications by April, and they'll send out their first rounds of acceptances around March, and then they'll get another wave probably around May or June. And, I mean, with everything that everybody hears about rolling admissions, usually they're like, oh yeah, you should have had your application in way, around January, December, whatever. I think all that's out the window. Do you agree?
Yeah, all of the previous deadlines and rolling admissions rules, that is largely out the window. Generally
Yeah.
speaking, of course, it's better to apply earlier if possible. And so anyone who is applying now, if they're willing to wait a year, I would still say hold off, apply at the beginning in the fall for next cycle. That way you'll have more scholarship money available. Your odds will be a little bit higher. But if you don't want to wait, I could certainly understand applying now.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the people who are currently in this cycle, because I think that's really what we geared this webinar for, because I totally understand, for the people that are currently in this cycle, it's way more nerve-wracking than people that are waiting until next year. So, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've seen law schools doing. I reached out to a bunch of law school admissions officers in the last 2 weeks, and, they're telling me that they're making all sorts of accommodations to make sure that students can still get to know their law school, because it is really, really important for you to be able to really understand what your law school is like before you go. And usually a lot of people would try to visit the law schools, get a sense of if they can see themselves there. And you can't do that right now. So I think they're making all sorts of concessions to allow people to do that. So some of the changes that we've seen is that they're offering virtual admitted students days where you can connect with other people who have been admitted and faculty and other students. They're also offering online Zoom sessions or online Facebook Live sessions with current students and faculty, so you can get to know some of them. We've also seen them offering virtual tours or email contact with current faculty, financial aid officers, or even career services if you want to talk to them about that stuff. So, I mean, the goal is really right now, you should try to get to know your prospective law school as much as possible. Take advantage of all of those things. And if your law school hasn't reached out to you yet and told you that they're offering those things, ask. I think the most important thing right now is to really stay in contact with your admissions folks and make sure you're checking, every day for updates, because this is a really, really, changing time. And I think everyone's just taking it day by day, and nobody has a crystal ball to say when all of this is going to blow over or when things will calm down. So I think, you just need to keep checking, the admissions websites of every one of your schools. I'm sure they're going to be in contact with you on email, but also, don't be afraid to ask for things. Don't be afraid to ask them like, hey, can you let me email another student, or let me talk to a faculty member and get to know more about these programs. I think law schools are going to be a lot more flexible right now about what they're allowing admitted students to do to really get to know their schools. The other things that we've seen are a lot of schools are pushing back their seat deposit deadlines. So, you might be able to really learn more about different schools before having to put in your seat deposit. Oh, and by the way, I'll open this up for like a Q&A at the very, very end. So after we kind of go through all of these changes, then anybody can chime in. And I encourage you, if you want, to turn on your video, because I know during this time of social distancing, it might be nice to see some people and feel like you can interact. And I think it's really important right now to be just trying to make bonds and network with people as much as you can, even during this time online. So anyway, some more considerations about admissions that I wanted to talk about, though, is that, I mean, this admission cycle is going to be a mess. That probably means you're going to have a lot of people deferring their admissions to next year. And the reason I say that is because I've seen, a lot of law school admissions consultants and other, law school advising folks have said, well, normally, if we're headed for a recession, law school admissions goes up. Like, law school admissions tends to run counter-cyclical to however the economy is doing. So if the economy is doing bad, usually a lot of people will flock to law school and think, hey, I'm going to wait out this economy and try to, get my law degree, and then hopefully things will be better when I get out on the other side. Well, I think that you shouldn't necessarily treat the current admission cycle like that for a couple of reasons. Because yes, we're probably headed for some tough economic times if we're not already in them, but it's not the same as just your run-of-the-mill recession. Not only is the economy kind of swinging, but right now, we don't even know if you're going to be able to attend classes in person in August. And that is a really, really important difference, because a huge part of your law school experience is really just getting to know other law students and bonding with other students and being in the trenches with them. It's one thing that the law schools have taken all of their classes online out of necessity. It's another thing to do online education really well. I mean, very few people have actually thought through what it takes to really deliver quality legal education online. And I mean, you've seen that with, the ABA regulates all law schools, they accredit law schools, and there's only 4 even hybrid online programs that are accredited by the ABA right now. And there's good reason for that, because it's really hard to deliver a legal education online. I think, a lot of people need to think about whether or not going in this cycle is absolutely necessary. I talk to students all the time that tell me, no, I have to go right now. I've got this momentum, and I feel like if I don't go right now, I'm just, I'm going to lose the momentum. And I think to myself, like, listen, if I could give you any piece of advice, it is to take some time for yourself to learn what you're really getting into. Now, some people really understand a lot about law school, and they understand about what this profession is all about. Maybe they were working as a paralegal before going to law school, or maybe they have a parent or a family friend or somebody who's close to them who's an attorney, and they know a lot about this. And so then they're like, okay, I know what I'm getting into. I'm prepared. I'm ready to go. That's fine. But, I think if you are somebody who isn't really quite sure what you're getting into, then, you need to take some time for yourself and really start to figure that out. And you can take this gap year to do it. I have a lot of people ask me, like, what can I be doing during my gap year? And I think that, you should really focus on learning more about different practice areas, what it's really like to be a lawyer. So connect with other lawyers, network with lawyers. And if you're wondering, well, how do I network with people right now when everybody's social distancing? There's a ton of lawyers who have now, moved all of their business development focus and all of their speaking focuses all online. A lot of people are doing webinars on LinkedIn. A lot of people are doing Zoom calls and Skype calls. And so there's ways that you can join different associations to get to know more lawyers and learn a little bit more about what they do. One of the things that I would recommend is, if you haven't learned more about different practice areas, go read the ABA. American Bar Association has a Career Center portion of their website, and they have guides on different practice areas where you can learn more about them. And then there's also Chambers Associate is another website that has practice area guides that will show you a little bit more about different practice areas. You know, I am amazed by how many people decide to go to law school without really understanding which practice areas they're even interested in. And, you know, that can be really important to know because the types of, you know, law practice differ so greatly from each other, and the amount of money that you might make in each different practice area differs so greatly. And the skills that you need are also different. So it's really important for you to take the time to get to know more about different practice areas. And, you know, I mean, we also offer our mentoring program where you can connect with lawyers through that. It's done completely online. We have a mobile app where you can video chat with your mentor. You don't have to meet them in person or anything. So like try to take advantage of programs like that where you can actually, you know, meet people face to face through online means. And, you know, I mean, some other things that you can do are you might want to consider taking the GRE. If the LSAT is completely messed up for the next few months, you know, the GRE, you can actually now take it online from your house. So you might want to look into that as well. And you can also, you know, just keep up to date on different resources. I know that there's so many online resources for students now. I think everybody reads the law school Reddit, but there's also, you know, other blogs like Spivey Consulting's blog is really popular. Anne Levine runs her own blog, and all of them are looking for different changes that are happening right now from the law schools. And so you might be able to see more of what's going on in this current cycle by keeping current with their blogs. And then, you know, there's also a bunch of ways that you can just start learning a little bit more about the law before you dive into law school. There usually are a bunch of pre-law pipeline programs that you can do. I know the PLUS program offered by LSAC is really common, but I think a lot of those have been pushed for the summer. If you're finding that you can't participate in summer programs, Leg Up Legal is also putting together a completely free 2-week virtual boot camp in July that's targeted towards people who are going to law school this fall. And we're going to be putting on 1 week of seminars about note-taking, outlining, exam-taking strategies, resume writing, cover letter writing, you know, basically all the things that you'll need for your first year. And then the second week will be a simulation of law school classes. So we've had wonderful law school professors who have volunteered to teach actual law classes. So you get a glimpse of what the classes would be like in CivPro, contracts, property, legal writing and legal research, and I think criminal procedure as well. So you take advantage of that. We'll be sending out more information about that boot camp to all the people who are on these webinars as we get closer to the date. But other than that, I really just wanted to, you know, have these meetups so that people could talk together and, you know, see what's going on, see what other people are experiencing, and, you know, ask any questions that you have. So I just wanted to open up the floor at this time and see if there's anybody that has any questions or wants to get advice about their current situation. And like I said, you'll have to unmute yourself before you can ask the question. Anybody? Okay, some people said that they wanted to type their questions, so I'm going to wait.
How soon or Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Jaleesa Rodriguez.
Oh,
How
hi.
soon should you take your LSAT before you go to law school or like apply to law school, and how many times do you recommend?
Well, there's a limit now on how many times that you can take it. And actually, usually I would say you should take it during the summer before the fall that you're going to be applying, not the fall that you're going. But because this summer is so messed up, a lot of people can't take the June and July LSATs. So, I mean, basically, a lot of people try to get their admissions applications submitted around December or January. That's usually considered pretty early in the cycle, unless you want to apply early admission, and then sometimes those deadlines will land in November. So you need to take your LSAT with at least about a month and a half of time to get your score back. So if you're planning on applying in November or December, you'd need a score from at the latest probably the September LSAT. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm seeing another one typed in here. Okay, so as to regards to the retake for the July test, that was scheduled April. Well, I mean, if you've never registered, you won't be automatically registered for a July test. So you're going to have to go ahead and register for the July test. Are you seeing that you're having trouble registering? Like, are the spots filled up, or what's going on? This question is for Robert. Okay. Oh, wait, last July? Um, Hold on. Sorry, just scrolling up here to try. Um, okay, yeah. And so if the last free retake would have been this month, I mean then they would probably allow you to retake in one of the future tests, but I would definitely email LSAC and just say that you had taken the July test and you were trying to do a retake. Because you might not have automatically gotten one of those emails allowing you to re-register if you weren't currently registered for April. And then I'm looking for the next one, Kaylee. You said you applied around November and you haven't heard back from your school. Um, Hold on, let's see. Should you expect a delay? And okay. Um, I would totally follow up with them, actually. So if you've applied, and you haven't heard anything back from the schools, usually most people write a letter of continued interest. You can always do that, write an email back to them, and just, say, in light of all the changes with COVID-19, I'm sure that it's taking some time for you to make admissions decisions, but I just wanted to make sure that, everything in my application was sufficient and that you're not waiting on anything from me. I think that especially if you have any updates, a change in scores, change in GPAs, or anything like that, I would definitely write a letter of continued interest to tell them that you still are planning on applying, or you still want to go, and you need to know if they have anything that they're missing. For Brandon, hi Angie, for currently admitted students, when do you think is the latest that law schools will accept deferrals? Oh, that one's a good question. I have no idea, but I would assume probably all the way up until, close to August. But I would at least write to the specific school that you're thinking about deferring and ask them, because I'm sure it'll be very different for every school. Do I think law schools will accept deferrals off the wait list? No, probably not, unless you were on the wait list, got an admission, and then you defer. That's fine. But I mean, if you want to just defer to the wait list for next year, I don't think law schools really do that, if that's what you're asking. Let's see. I'm trying to get to everybody. I think that's all the other questions I had in the chat box. If anybody wants to ask questions, just please unmute yourself and ask a question, because this WebEx is actually not as user-friendly as Zoom, so it's a little hard to see all the questions in here. Sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm also going to drop my LinkedIn link in the chat box. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn and follow up and ask me questions after this meeting, feel free to do that. Hold on, let me just pull up my profile. How long do individuals prepare for the LSAT? Oh, well, I mean, it depends on you. You know, a lot of people try to take at least, 3-4 months of solid prep before they take their first LSAT. But I mean, I'm seeing people start as early as the year before and, prep pretty regularly throughout that entire year. So Steve's blog, LSAT Unplugged, is great. It has tons of free study materials. He has, LSAT prep plans that you can look at. And there's different plans for if you're, taking the test 3 months from now, 2 months from now, 1 month from now. So he has a lot of great free resources there. And then, of course, there's Khan Academy now, which I wish they would have had when I went to law school. I went to law school in 2013. 2010. I graduated in 2013. And they didn't have near as many resources as they do for people now. If anybody is interested in learning more about intellectual property law, too, I practiced IP law for 5 years before launching my company, so I'm happy to talk to you more about that as well. And if you're looking to connect with lawyers and you want to, see if there's ways to connect with lawyers in the practice areas that you're interested in and you're not focused in IP, then feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect you to people that I know. Let's see. I think that's all the questions that we had. So I'm just going to drop my LinkedIn, and, if anybody has anything else, feel free to reach out to me. Caitlin, you said that you had to step away, but you wanted me to answer Brandon's question again. Okay, let me look. Yeah, okay, so I think that, deferrals are really hard to tell how late that they're going to accept them. I would reach out to the individual school that you've been offered an offer of admission from and ask them, what's the process for deferring and how late will you wait to hear back on a deferral? And then also, he asked if law schools will accept deferrals off the wait list. If you were on a wait list and then got an offer of admission and then you wanted to defer, I believe that, yes, you can do that. But I've never heard of anybody being able to defer a spot on the wait list for next round or anything like that. Let's see. Is there?
I have a question.
Yes.
So I was planning on taking the LSAT in June. Is that still, do you think, is there any, do they know if that's still happening? Should I even sign up?
Well, I mean, right now they're saying that the June LSAT is still open, but like Steve said, there's a lot of states where you can't even, where you can't really be outside, and you definitely can't be at a testing center. LSAC has said that they are considering some online options for the LSAT, but I think it'll take them a lot longer to figure that out than they think. So, unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for you. My sense is, if you want to just go ahead and register for June, and if it gets canceled, it'll get pushed, you can do that. Still prep like you are going to take it in June, because you want to be ready when you can take it, but it's really all up in the air right now. Sorry.
If I do sign up for June and it is canceled, am I guaranteed a spot in the next LSAT, I guess?
Well, it seems like it was like that for March and April, but if they're going to keep pushing LSATs, it would seem that there's going to be a lot more people that get pushed. So I don't know if they will guarantee you a spot. But what I do know is if you didn't sign up and all of a sudden everybody else gets pushed and there's no spots left, you're not going to be able to register. So you might want to just register, and if you get pushed, you get pushed. But if if you don't register and then all of a sudden you want to take it and then all the people who got pushed now are registered for that test, there's probably not going to be enough spots. So
Sorry, this is my last question.
That's okay.
Since I don't plan on going to law school until fall of 21.
Okay.
So I was going to take it this summer. So do you think because of all this, for people that are still needing to take the LSAT and the possibility they might keep getting pushed back and pushed back, do you think law schools will be flexible with admissions next cycle?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say how it's going to impact them because my sense is that, they're still going to be dealing with this round of admissions all up until August. So that's probably going to push back how ready they are for their next admission cycle.
Okay.
But, I mean, if you were to take, if you were planning to apply in fall of 2021 and you were to take, even the September LSAT this time around, you would be fine. You would still get a score back in time. Now, if you wanted to be able to give yourself some padding in order to make sure that the score that you have is the best one that you can get, then, some people would sign up for August and then take September. So maybe you'd want to do that. That's kind of the best shot I think you got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me make sure. Okay, you were talking about, let me drop the link for Steve's blog. Yes, the one that Julissa just entered, that is the correct blog for Steve's blog. And then he also has a YouTube channel, so look at that as well. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, I hope this was helpful. We're going to continue running more of these sessions. We're going to start talking about all sorts of other things that you can do to prepare for law school, including, how to actually network with attorneys online and, some strategies that you can use to make this gap year really productive if you do decide to take a gap year, and how you might be able to find legal internships or pipeline programs or some, positions that you can use so that you can learn more about the law. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and I hope you all have a wonderful, safe, and happy week. And if you need anything at all, please feel free to reach out. I'll also drop my email address below if anybody wants to email me. And I'll see you all soon. All right. Thanks.